Well, welcome to the Metal Margarita Show. We're so excited to have you both with us. So we have Ralph Matthew and Kate Keller from Alternate Reality Comics in Las Vegas, one of the oldest comic book stores here in town. How are you today?
Pretty fantastic. Thanks for having us, and this should be fun. Look forward to it.
Yes, I I've been looking forward to this interview because number one, I love comics and animation. Cartoons are kind of like my happy place. So it lets me embrace my inner child. And, none of us really ever outgrow any of that. So that's why it's so fun to have you two on the show and be able to talk about the history of the store, both of your backgrounds, how you came to love this business and find one another through this business. So let's go back to the beginning. So Ralph, you became owner of this store back in 1995, but your love of comics started long before that, nearly 50 years ago in 1975. Tell us about growing up. Are you originally from Las Vegas?
No, I'm actually, I was born in Germany, German parents, but my father was in the Air Force, stepfather in the Air Force. So I was an Air Force brat and first lived here in Vegas from 73 to 76. Went back to Germany for 4 years and ended up coming back here in 1980. So I've pretty much lived here since 1980.
So when did this fascination and love of comics really start? Was there a certain character that really turned you on to it, or what was going on at the time?
Yeah, I I really started reading comics regularly, like weekly, in 1975. I just was reading titles like House of Mystery, Chamber of Chills, little horror titles, and I saw ads for superhero titles, and I was like, oh, let me try them. So there was Flash, of course, Spider-Man, and kind of went from there. But yeah, I'd read comics. When I was 75, I was 13. Read comics before then, but not again like Hot Stuff, Little Dot, Richie Rich, but not on a regular basis. But yeah, again, I just love the union of pictures and words, and here we are.
So the ultimate dream, this many years later, 20 years later, you end up owning a comic book store, which was originally Dungeon Comics and was opened back in 1987. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. So there was two previous owners before I bought it in 1995. First owner Steve, and this was over directly across from the university in the Promenade Center, a building that's no longer there. It was diagonally across from Kinko's. And then the second owner moved it in 1991 over by the stakeout closer to Maryland and Trop. And then, yeah, 95, I bought it.
You putting together this store, and by the way, I'm going to share some of the reviews later on in the interview because you folks have outstanding reviews of your store. You should be so proud of what you've built and what you have there. So we're going to go into more detail about that. So not long after you owning the shop, this lovely lady comes into your life. So Kate, tell us how this came about. How did you two meet and hook up?
So I moved to Las Vegas to go to college. I moved from Eastern Desert, California, to go to UNLV, and I had started reading comics in my hometown of Ridgecrest. And a good friend of mine in high school said, "Oh, there's a comic book store right across the street from UNLV." So I started going to Dungeon Comics. Like I knew that New Comic Book Day was Wednesday. I had a class that would end at around 10 a.m. I would walk over to the store just in time to watch it open and get my new comics. And then shortly after I became a customer, the manager of the store, PJ Walquist, was like, "Hey, this is Ralph. He's going to be taking over the store." And so I got to know Ralph, and how we really got to talk to each other is, this is going to date me, but back in the day when you had to buy tickets to a concert in person,
Right. No Ticketmaster.
1995.
Yeah, yeah.
No internet.
No internet. Like you could try calling on the phone, but you would just never get through. So I was going to go stand out all night in line to get tickets for an REM concert. I was worried because my roommate couldn't be with me, and I was going to carry a lot of cash. And I was at the store picking up my comics, and there was a usual gang of people at the store. And they mentioned going to that same concert. I was like, "Hey, can I wait in line with you?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, Ralph's going to be waiting in line for us." So Ralph and I waited in line all night long and got to talking to each other, and the rest is history.
Wow, how fun. You share the love for music, and what a great band, by the way. I bet that was an amazing concert too.
It was, yes. The Scissor Sisters opened for them. It was a great show.
Wow. So love blossomed, and Ralph, you did something historical when you wanted to take the plunge and take things to the next level. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I decided to propose to Kate in the letter page of a comic book. One of our favorite comics is called Preacher, written by Garth Ennis, artist Steve Dillon, and Garth Ennis answered his own letter page. Usually that was done by the editors, but it was a creator-owned title. He liked that interaction with his fans, and I knew Kate had been mentioned in the letter page a couple of times, so I know she'd read the letter page, and so I wrote Garth. And this back then, it took like 4 months from the time you wrote a letter to the time it got published. So, it appeared in the letter appeared in April of '97, and so Kate picks up her comics, and that day, she doesn't look through them. She goes home, and a half hour later, she comes back. Of course, I will. But yeah, but so that was the first time anyone ever proposed in the letter page of a comic, and shortly thereafter, a couple people did it in a issue of Incredible Hulk and a book called Strangers in Paradise. So, yeah.
Wow. So Kate, what was your feeling? Like, did it even hit you that it was for you?
Well, the funny thing is, so I picked up my comics and I actually read one of them in the store. And then our house at that time was very close. You could open the back door of the store and look out and see the front door of our house. And I went home and I did a couple things, and then I thought, well, look, I'm going to reread the comics and I'm going to read the letters pages. And I just when I read that letters page, it was the very first letter in the letters column for Preacher that month. I just felt this jolt go through me. I was like, oh my God. So I read it again to make sure it was really true. And then I was so happy and excited. I could barely make my legs work, but I did manage to run out of the house. And I ran into the front door of the store, and I opened the door and I said, "Of course I will."
Oh, wow.
The thing is that what Ralph didn't say is, he had told a couple of customers that he had proposed to me in this letters page. But, so they saw me come in, and then they saw me leave, and they were like, "Oh no!"
Yeah, so I didn't until that day. I didn't tell anybody because I didn't want it to leak out or the surprise to be spoiled. But that day at the store, I told some people that were there, and then like he said, when they saw it, they thought maybe she saw it and wasn't responsive to it. Yeah, receptive. Yeah.
So afterwards, though, he printed out a big banner on it, with his computer. Back in the days when you kind of had to tile everything, his friend put out a big banner and it said, "Kate said yes." So.
Oh, wow. What a beautiful story. And gosh, the patience you had to wait, the intensity of waiting all that time for it to actually come out must have been just crazy.
And also, we about 10 years ago, we ran into the creator of Preacher, Garth Ennis, in person, and he was very happy to know that we're still married. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's great. And and special for the artist as well, because those stories inspire them and inspire other things, that come from that. And the cool thing about your store, and yes, you two are obviously soulmates, and you found each other. Not everybody gets to find their soulmate and find that partner that's going to be with them and share all of these things. So it's what a wonderful blessing and beautiful happening. It's just, I just love this, and I can't wait for the audience to that are watching, and hearing this story too, because you just don't know where you're going to meet your mate.
Yeah.
So of all places, in the comic book store. So, and you folks, you carry a wide variety of things. So very diverse collections, not any one thing, from history, autobiographies, horror, crime, fiction, sci-fi, humor, young readers, young adults, LGBTQ. For every taste and every genre, you have something for it, in addition to gifts and novelties and things like that. So what's the scene like right now in the comic world? You know, what are we finding like trends that are coming back? Are we finding how's the attraction to like the younger generation, or is comics still strong as far as the people that love them?
Yeah, so superhero titles are still the bread and butter of comic stores everywhere, but there's for many years now, it's changed quite a bit with manga, the Japanese comics. Young people really love that, and then there's young adult books, scholastic, like Raina Tellemeier, Smile, Guts. She's hugely popular. Dogman is one of the biggest books for young readers. And then LGBTQ, there's so many books, graphic novels for that. For really any person, whatever your reading taste is, there's a comic for that, and that's again why I set up my store like a regular bookstore in different genres to showcase that.
I want to speak a little bit to this too. So my day job is I work for the UNLV library, and libraries have played a huge role in getting young people to read comics and manga. And so often what will happen is young people will find comics and manga through their library, through their public library or their school library. And but the way libraries work is it takes a longer cycle for them to get these items in. They have to come in, they have to be cataloged, they have to have their stickers and stamps put on them, and then they get out to the shelf. Your local comic book store doesn't have that issue. You know, they get the stuff much faster. It doesn't necessarily have to be cataloged. It just has to be taken out of the box and put on the shelf. So what we've discovered as store owners, and me seeing this in the library field, is the library is the great feeder system for the comic book store, because there will be people that do wait. They're like, I can wait 3 or 4 months. I can be on a hold list. But there are a lot of people that want to get their comics right now. And so they will come to a comic book store. And then the other thing that, like, well, you can just get your comics from Amazon or the Barnes and Noble or something, and people do choose to do that. But the thing that's kind of fun about a comic book store is often it becomes a place for people also to hang out and socialize. So if you're totally into such and such series, when the new books come, you know that when you go to pick up your book, there's probably somebody else there who reads it, will talk about it. Like, we've had friendships blossom in our store. We've even had a couple relationships happen through the store. So, you know, we
and I'm glad you touched on that, because, you know, social media and this age that we're in really makes people antisocial. And, you know, we're wired to be around people. And even if we escape into a comic book or escape into a different reality, as we'll talk more about, you know, we still need to find people that have similar interests and things that we share in common. So Kate, you did had a publication for a little while for female comic book lovers. Is that still something that you do, or what's kind of the climate with women in comic books?
Okay, so the publication is called Sequential Tart, and it's sequentialtart.com. Unfortunately, I'm not able to still be active in it. My workload at work just means at the end of the day, I don't have a lot of energy to spare. And I've also had some health concerns with my back that have just taken away time. So I'm not active anymore with Sequential Tart, although I would like to come back. But the idea behind it is most of the media we always see is written by men for men, or like men for young men. And we thought it was a bunch of girls that got together. We all met because we were fans of the comic book Preacher, and we liked the works of Garth Ennis. And we thought it was time for there to be a woman's voice in comic books. You know, a woman's voice saying, no, that women do read comics. And we don't just read the girly books, although I don't want to say that there's anything wrong with girly books. I'm all for anything that gets a young person engaged in reading. But there were a lot of stereotypes about the kind of comic books that women enjoy, and we wanted to challenge those stereotypes. And so just as women read any kind of novel, women can read and enjoy any kind of comic book. There are women that love superhero comic books. There are women that love romance. There are women that love manga. There are women that love fantasy and mystery murders. There are women that love nonfiction works, and comics tell all of those stories too.
And that's fun, that for all of us to be able to engage, and thank you for, you know, pointing that out and making that an important, topic and something that should be part of the conversation. My mom actually was a big Superman fan, so that's what got me turned on to comics years ago. And then I tend to, I've always been a Silver Surfer fan and some of the other characters, but I worked in the antiques business for a while and love really old comics. Like there was only one of something, or something real obscure. So I really like finding the old ones to check out, and I love vintage things.
And there's a real charm, and it's really nice that there have been, well, unfortunately, in the history of things, some of those comics really kind of have been lost. Like if you have a floppy of it, that's it. But there have been some movements by certain publishers to find them again, get the rights to them, and bring like much loved classic titles back into prints and omnibus editions. And that's like, while that's not necessarily to my personal taste, I understand absolutely why these works were foundational and important. And I'm glad that there's still demand for them, that people want to read them and enjoy them, and that there's a timelessness to the good stories. And even the ones that didn't age well, it's still fun to see what people thought at the time,
The time that they were written is the time that, the authors and the artists are going to be talking about. And then we look at our futuristic stuff. Look at how many prophetic things have been written in comic books that are coming about now. The science fiction stuff that we're seeing that is reality, that was once just someone's imagination. So, and speaking of characters and imagination, you do have some special mascots for the store. Epi the Ska Lizard and Cosmic Vine and Maud the Gecko are the three that I was introduced to.
Well,
Tell us a little bit about that. They're on your shirts too, right?
yes.
Who else do we have there? We have Maud and Epi.
That's Epstein. Yeah, Epi is also known as Epstein and Maud. So Epstein's name comes from Juan Epstein from Welcome Back, Kotter. It's just a little in joke with a circle of friends. So his name comes from Welcome Back, Kotter. So when I thought up this other character, Maud, I wanted her name to come from a character from the 1970s also. So of course it was B. Author's Maud. So they're this. It's just a fun way to brand the store, and really kind of surprising that more businesses don't have something like that. It's just kind of taking a life of their own. Local artists love drawing them, and yeah, so I thought of, well, Epstein like a lizard because of the desert, and I kind of I told my artist friend Kier Eastfeld, who was the first artist that visualized him, that I wanted to wear ska clothing because I like that fashion sense. And then my artist who did this design, who lives in Ohio, Ron Horsley. Yeah, he's been working with me for years, and he's just so on the same page with what I want to do with the character and the look of the store.
And as for the character of Cosmic Vine, who isn't on these shirts, Ralph had a small one-shot comic made about Epstein telling kind of an origin story, and wasn't Cosmic Vine a collaboration?
So he was kind of like a Galactus character, kind of like Galactus was Silver Surfer was the herald to Galactus. Well, Epstein is the herald to Cosmic Vine to find alternate different realities for Cosmic Vine. And the name Cosmic Vine comes from, for years I had this tub of red vines at the store for customers, and so then I saw this drawing that Ron Horsley had made, the silhouette, and I was like, why is Galactus in this? And then I was like, oh no, he could be Cosmic Vine.
Right. So, yes.
That's fun. And who doesn't like a red vine? We used to buy them by the tubs at home too. That was like our biggest treat. And they're still good to this day. There's just certain things that just never go out of style. So red vines, that's so much fun. And so do you two have a favorite? Has your taste kind of shifted or changed as things come out, or do you have like one that you stick with? Favorite type of comics?
Well, again, so my favorite comics are the autobiographical history, with one of my favorites last year being Feeding Ghosts by Tessa Hollis. It's a story of it's a generational story of three Chinese women, herself, her mother, and grandmother, Tessa Hall's grandmother in the 1950s in China was a journalist, and she also wrote a memoir criticizing communism, which you don't do. And sadly, her grandmother, while writing this, descended into mental illness. But her grandmother and her mother ended up fleeing to Hong Kong, and so Feeding Ghosts is about that and the entirety, well, almost of Chinese history and how, you know, very turbulent that was. And but again, so yeah, Feeding Ghosts last year, it's kind of like a modern day Mouse, you know, which was by Art Spiegelman. Just the depth and scope of the story that was my favorite of last year.
Well, lately for work, I've been reading a lot more like autobiographies and memoir comics, and also some historical comics. One that I read recently a lot and I liked a lot, of course, I cannot remember the gentleman's name, but it was called High Desert. And it's about a young man who grew up not too far from where I grew up. He grew up in Apple Valley, and he's a young biracial man. And we have all these stereotypes of what Black people like. He should be into rap. He should be into this. And he talked about what it was like to be the Black kid who was into punk rock and skateboarding at his remote rural high school. But for me personally, when I go back to, when I pick up comics, like the things that still speak most deeply to me, our works are the good superhero comics, like the really well thought out ones, and a lot of fantasy and science fiction comics. Like if I want to reread something, I'll go back to something like James Robinson's Starman comics. That is one of my all-time favorite books. I will also go back and like reread J.H. Williams' Promethea comic, which I thought is, and Alan Moore wrote that with him. Alan Moore wrote it, and J.H. Williams illustrated it, but to me, I love that cosmic sweep of storytelling, and to me, not only is it a beautiful story and the art is beautiful, but it really took full advantage of what comics do and comics do well that like a book or a film doesn't do. So it really took the medium to its fullest capacity that I'd ever seen it done. So, yeah.
Speaking of the two creators, Kate just mentioned, James Robinson and J.H. Williams. They both live here in Vegas now. They've lived here for many years. They're two really big creators, and they've got the book that J.H. Williams III is working on right now is Echolands from Image Comics. It's beautiful, done in the landscape, you know, like sideways format. It's just very lush, and I mean, he's always looking for different ways to take his art to new levels and
experiment.
Yeah,
he's very experimental.
Yeah.
Yes,
and James Robinson, again, most known for Starman in the 1990s, but he's still doing great comics today, like for Dark Horse, Patra, Welcome to the Maynard. And yeah, he's got a new one coming out, Less Monstrous, in May. But yeah, we're fortunate to have them, you know, here in town, and yeah, we get to.
I'll also say, if you liked the Stargirl TV series that was on the CW about two years ago, James Robinson was one of the regular writers on that series. So yeah.
Wow. That's really fascinating. And, you know, one of the reviews I read, someone would happen to be in your store and was surprised by getting some of their books autographed. So you have signings from time to time. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so again, back to Tessa Hall is the creator of Feeding Ghosts. I got to host her last year. I was the only comic book store that had her as a guest. All of her other appearances were at regular bookstores, and turnout was fantastic. I just really wanted this book to get noticed and a lot of attention, and it has made several best of 2024 lists. So I was happy for that. But a couple other like big fun creators we've had in the store. Jim Lee was probably everyone's favorite superhero artist. That was, gosh, in 2005.
Yeah.
This is when my store was close to Maryland. Well, it was on Maryland on Tropicana by the stakeout, and he had like 7 of his Italian artist friends there. So it was, but
that was an epic day.
Yeah, that was a great day. And then we had J.H. Williams and James Robinson. You know, they're due for another signing, and that's going to happen this year. But we do, like you said, we do have signed books by them in the store.
And the other thing is, we've had other signings. Because although the store I want to emphasize, the store carries books for everybody. But because we are so well known for having a lot of independent and small press comics, there's been independent and small press creators who've come through. Like if you're looking for that off the beat book, we probably have it. And if there's going to be a small press sighting in Vegas, it's probably going to be at our store. There's one creator, Ryan Plator, who from time to time will do a coast-to-coast tour. He's come through our store several times. Yeah.
He teaches art in Michigan.
Yeah.
And we've enjoyed having you on the show. This has been so much fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for talking with us.
I can't wait for the people now that are going to come in and experience the store and visit and find a new passion and maybe renew an old one that they may have put it down and it's time to pick it up again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So Ralph and Kate, alternate reality comic. I'm so excited I can't even talk here. So we're so excited to have you on the show. Thank you again. You have a wonderful day. And we're looking forward to everyone hearing your story.
You too, and may the force be with you.
Yes, may the force be with us all. And live long and prosper. I'm gonna see if I can get my fingers right. I think I got it. Attention business owners, get your messages to Pahrump and Nye County by advertising with KNYE 95.1 FM, the big voice of Pahrump and Nye County. Call 775-537-6100. That's 775-537-6100. Give in to your mad cravings with a healthy bowl from Teriyaki Madness. Real food made to order, prepared with fresh, high-quality ingredients that make you feel like $1,000,000. Satisfy your cravings at these Southern Nevada locations in Pahrump and Henderson, where friendly staff is awaiting your visit. Experience the madness. Teriyaki Madness.
Starstruck, here's a sprinkle of the stardust. Hold your champagne glass and your cigars up. See the guys with mob ties drive the cars up. Bright lights, most nights they buy the bars up. Candy coated Chevy cars on the highway. It's Frankie baby, it's on and this is my way. Dean Martin at the Sands this Friday. With Sammy Davis, here's a little hint where I stay. The city shines like Liberace's mansion. And you know Elvis had the whole city dancing. Showgirl silhouette steady prancing. Shout out to June, just the Copa Girls anthem. Legal gambling, yeah, that would tempt me. It's Sin City, holy water couldn't cleanse me. And Wayne Newton had the crowd in a frenzy. Live at the Stardust, the seats never empty.